Welcome once again. Now, in other stories this morning, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, has imposed a $200 million fine on Meta Platforms Incorporated and Meta Platforms Incorporated, I beg your pardon, and WhatsApp for engaging in discriminatory practices. The fine follows a 3-year joint investigation by the FCCPC and Nigerian Data Protection Commission into the company's operations in Nigeria.
Also, the investigation revealed that WhatsApp requires Nigerian users to consent to sharing their data for research purposes upon registration, unlike the users in other regions who are given the option to opt in or opt out. Furthermore, the investigation found that WhatsApp allegedly shares user data across different platforms. Now, in a statement released to the news agency of Nigeria, WhatsApp announced that it will appeal FCCP's decision. Joining us now is fintech expert and founder of Ancestors Advisory, Fisayo Durojayi. We are also joined online by the senior manager at digital rights advocacy organization Paradigm Initiative, Boye Adigoke. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I'll start with Fisayo. What are the claims exactly? So I'm seeing a lot of things about privacy, using customer, I think Osage said something about the scare that our WhatsApp was no longer safe. And that was what came to my mind this morning, that, okay, I'm seeing personal information shared across other platforms. What exactly would you say are the claims that are being laid on the platform?
So after 3 years of investigation, again, I think that was what the news exactly said. They've looked through the sign-up process for WhatsApp, and of course says that the fact that you're using WhatsApp, you have inadvertently given Meta, which is the parent company, the right to use your data for anything. Well, they said for research purpose. Again, depends on what kind of research that is, but I think it's more for, for more personalized advertising and all of that. And of course, again, why that is problematic in its own right is the fact that, okay, of course, Europe is the hotbed for regulation, right? They export regulation more than any other thing, right? Given the GDPR rules in Europe, and of course the localization of that with the NDPR in Nigeria, right? So it means that customers have to opt in or opt out of some of those, things around, their data, their personalized data. So it means that no platform should be able to use anyone's data except, they are given the right, except the customer themselves give the right to use that, to use such data. So the claim here is that Nigerians are not given that option at all, and that's why, the fine is being imposed.
Okay, let's also have Boye Adigoke also join us, and express, why this is a major problem, because I'm sure a lot of Nigerians really, don't care what happens to their data. As long as their WhatsApp is working and they can continue their, regular conversations, nobody cares. When they send you that long list of, legal terms of use and all of that, you just scroll all the way down, click, yes, I've read it, let's go. So, Boye, share with us, why is this a problem, and what exactly have they discovered here that, might be a challenge here in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. But I think the first thing I'm going to say is that it is neither here nor there. I don't want to give a straitjacket answer to say that, this is a problem, that the fine is a problem, because it is important to have some sort of regulatory oversight over the work that platforms like Meta do. And we have to also understand something, that data protection derives from the right to privacy as guaranteed by the Constitution. So the assumption that people don't care about how their data is used is incorrect. People care, and people should care. More importantly, people who benefit from the use of those data should care. The problem here is not that I think WhatsApp or Meta, the parent company, needs to use data for business purposes. I think the digital economy relies on the use of data anyways, but if there are rules and there are procedures about how this thing should be done, it is expected for every entity to comply with those rules, including Meta. So I don't want us to create an impression that it doesn't matter, people don't care about how their data is used as long as their WhatsApp is working. That then doesn't mean that I necessarily agree that this fine was justified or otherwise. I also think that the question that on the table is whether the fine is proportionate, or it's a proportionate way to respond to whatever infractions that FCCPC and the Nigeria Data Protection Commission has found in their investigation. A lot of things can come up in this process, and we hope that this does not become a litigation issue. It doesn't get to court, and that some way Meta and the authorities will find a way to meet at the middle ground. But I think we need to be very clear from a digital rights perspective that the right to privacy is not a gift. It's not a privilege. It's a constitutionally guaranteed right. And all these suggestions that, people don't really care, whatever you use their data for, is very important. We don't need to wait until there is a major scandal before we start to care. I mean, we all know, I don't know if you remember what we call the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which was clearly an interference in the election, not just of the United States of America, but of Nigeria and of Kenya, I think in 2015. Those were made possible because of unhealthy practices around the use of data like this. So we must be able to look beyond the periphery of how data is used to understand that data represent power. And people who have access to data can do a lot of things with data, especially people who understand how to process data, how to analyze data, and how to to explain patterns, etc. So let us not be simplistic about how we look at the issues. There are concerns definitely about whether this is helpful, especially for the digital economy ecosystem in Nigeria, in terms of when you put out fines like this, what signals are you sending to investors? But I will tell you for a fact that even in the EU, which are the more advanced countries, companies like Meta gets fined even beyond this level. But that doesn't justify necessarily that we can just come up with a random number and say, you have to pay this amount of number. Because one of the issues that have come up is how did FCCPC and the Nigerian...
All right, hold on, Mr. Adegoke.
With this number, I mean, what's the implication for it?
All right, hold on, because I'm sure Mr. Durujai would also have his views on whether the fine is appropriate or not. $200 million is, to some people is quite a lot. But Blessings?
I'm just going to come back to Fisayo now and ask about digital literacy, especially for the ordinary Nigerian, because some of these things that are being discussed now are literally flying over people's heads because people have no idea what the conversation is. And one of the claims that Meta had was when they were about to start, they had certain conversations with certain agencies about some of the operations, and some of these things are new to them. And the argument from their end is these laws have been in place before they even came, but the ordinary Nigerian does not know that, and so the terms and conditions, some of these policies, we have no idea. We just want to use the social media platforms. So how important would you say digital literacy is for the Nigerian, and what role does it play in this whole conversation?
I mean, it is important. I mean, like you said at the beginning, I'm not sure many Nigerians really care about how their data is being used. Again, from just this, from the basic level. But, we should care, but I don't think a lot of people care enough about that, right? And of course, it is becoming a bigger issue because right now we're moving into a different era where when it comes to data, and I mean, the world is getting a lot more, data is now seen as the new oil. If you can personalize advertising to people directly, it's important for social media companies, for Google, for everyone in there, right? So it's important that yes, everyone understands exactly how and where their data is being used, specifically for them. So, for Nigerians particularly, I think that it's time that everyone, needs to say, okay, yes, this is what I consent to regarding my data, regarding my personal information, regarding the things I share. Of course, Meta will claim that. Chats, again, I see that in their terms and conditions. Chats within amongst people is not seen by the organization. But how long you spend, just different things that can collect as part of the of your use of the platform is being collected and is being used in a way that you don't have any control or knowledge about. So I think that it's important that everyone should get involved and lend their voice to the problem.
Okay, so also for more clarity on what exactly we're facing here, can you clarify on exactly or one of the main things that the investigation found out that Meta may have gotten wrong with its policy concerning Nigeria? There's the argument that it's EU policy different from the Nigerian policy. So clarifying exactly what the investigation has found.
Yes. So So again, like I said, there's the GDPR, that's the global data protection rights around, and of course I think that law has been localized in Nigeria using the NDPR, right? So the argument is that again, I think if you use the internet, long ago, you just go to website and you move on, right? But now you are required to accept, data being shared. If you just open anything or cookies, you are required to accept, whether or not you allow your data to be used, to be shared, or just anything, right? So it is more or less like like companies complying to that data privacy rules. Say you are the one that gives me the consent to use your data specifically for what we are saying we're going to use it for. And of course, you can choose use my data for this, don't use it for that. So people are required to choose. Right. So the argument from the regulators in Nigeria say that WhatsApp is not giving Nigerians the options to choose, whether or not their data can be used or can be shared. Yeah. Right. So what Meta just needs to do is put a button. I accept or not accept. That solves essentially this problem. I don't know why it takes 3 years to investigate, but that is all that is required. I accept. I do not accept. Right. If that is done, then all this case would not be there in the first place. I guess that's particularly is the problem, right? But to the extent to which whether there have been breaches on data or there have been other things, the investigation didn't been able to expose any of those. Yeah.
Okay, I'm also going to find out from Boye, because, I mean, from what you said, it's just something very simple that they're asking for. So, Boye, Meta has said that they want to appeal this for whatever reason, regardless of the fact that there's not too much that is being asked of them. Do they stand a chance?
Of course. I mean, even if they were caught pants down, trading Nigeria's data on the open market, they would definitely appeal. They are a business concern, and no business entity would just throw away $200 million, as fines because they are being fined. So they should definitely appeal it, and I see that happen. That's why I also said that I do hope that this doesn't have to become a litigation issue. They should be able to probably talk to the authorities and maybe come to a middle ground. And there are many reasons why they have to appeal it, because they also have an argument in terms of their relevance to the Nigerian economy. For example, what amount of opportunities they've created in terms of employment. We know how huge content creation is in the age that we live in. A lot of people are creating content on meta platforms like Facebook. I mean, recently Facebook was monetized, which means that people who create content on Facebook now get paid for the content they create. The same thing for Instagram and maybe other meta platforms. So Meta will also bring forward those type of argument that this is the value we bring to the economy. Asking us to pay this kind of money will affect our ability to continue to provide these services and all of that. So we have to look at the value that entity is also bringing to our ecosystem. So definitely I will see them, appealing this, and I do hope that there is a middle ground. But I think I also need to paint a bigger picture about all of this. Beyond the fine, beyond what the NDPC and the FCCPC have requested from Meta, what I think is important is the role that these agencies play in our ecosystem. We've talked about digital literacy and the fact that an average person doesn't really care about how their data is used. An average person doesn't read privacy notices and all of that. So even if you give people opportunities to consent or withdraw consent, a lot of people will not even exploit because they don't even have the literacy required to be able to make those type of decisions. So that's why we have law in place. That's why we have agencies of government in place to be able to protect the interests of Nigeria. So from my own perspective as a digital rights advocate and as somebody who works in the digital rights advocacy ecosystem, what is important is about protecting the interests of Nigeria. And so what FCCPC is doing or the NDPC is doing should be looked from that perspective, because
let's also find out.
Looking for money from every angle, and
Mr. Adegoke, kindly hold. Okay, great. I also want to know, I mean, in the time that this has, happened, I'm not sure how long ago, that the policy came in, that, of course, this investigation has been carried out. But I want to know, is it possible that Nigerian data or the data of Nigerian users has also been weaponized or been used for maybe fraudulent things? You mentioned Cambridge Analytica a while ago. Is it possible that Meta has also used the data of Nigerians for things that we're not aware of? Is there also a possibility that, the FCCPC will be able to investigate further and, figure out these things?
So the good thing is that what the FCCP has said, or what their investigation has shown, has not indicated that level of breaches. But of course, there is a Cambridge Analytical scandal that has to do with our election. And if you look at the Cambridge Analytical scandal, the problem with that scandal is it's not even Meta directly interfering in election, but because Meta shared the data of its subscribers to a third party, which is Cambridge Analytica, and that third party used those data for election interference. It was bigger in the US at the time. It wasn't so big in Nigeria, but the investigation revealed that Nigeria election in 2015 was also interfered with using those the data that was assessed by Cambridge Analytica. So that, at least that evidence existed at that time. But as at 2015, there was nothing like data protection law. There was nothing like the Nigeria data protection regulation. And also something I want to point out in this conversation is that it is a bit tricky for Nigeria. If you look very well at the release by the FCCPC and the NDPC. The NDPC started existing last year after the President Tinubu signed the Nigeria Data Protection Act into law. This was around June last year. And this investigation has gone on for 3 years. What that means is that this investigation started before the Nigeria Data Protection Act was even signed into law. But before the Nigeria Data Protection Act, there was what we know as the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, which was issued by NIDA. What this effectively means is that whatever privacy breaches Meta is being accused of is now Meta is being accused under that regulation, not under the Nigeria Data Protection Act, because that law did not exist. And I don't think within the context you can backdate the application of a law. So that's also something I want to highlight, and that's I also think that Meta might be able to also wiggle its way around this issue to get some maybe a soft landing.
All right, Mr. Adegoke. Mr. Durojai, I think the last question will go to you. About how Nigerians can better protect themselves and protect their data.
I mean, you have to be careful of your digital footprint, what you put out, what you can't, again, I think there have been issues around what people put out when they were young, when they're teenagers, and coming to bite them much later in life, right? So it's important that you're careful about the things you put online yourself. That's number one. That's even on a fair use perspective. But of course, as part of the overall real, I think it's a long ask. I think that the terms and conditions are just way too long for many people to read. So I will say on TV that yes, please, if you can read it, read it.
But it's not just reading it. You can read it and not understand what it's saying.
So there's a big literacy issue to be to be dealt with in there. If possible, just copy it and just maybe put in an AI platform to say what are the red flags I should look out for. I mean, there are different ways to work around some of those long things. But again, eventually, you have to choose. Do I consent or do I give up my right? I mean, my ability to use, not right, my ability to use WhatsApp. I don't know what people will choose, because I think WhatsApp is now like the primary way of communication. So I don't know if I would, I'd rather probably consent so that I can have access to my loved ones around me. Again, so it's Nigerians are caught, or everyone is caught between a rock and a very hard place. So all you can do is to ensure that yes, what you put online is safe and it's not something that you regret, further down the line.
All right. Fisayo Durojai is the fintech expert and, of course, founder of Ancestors Advisory. We also have had this morning Adeboye Adegoke, who is, of course, senior manager at digital rights advocacy organization Paradigm Initiative. Thank you both for stopping by, for sharing this conversation with us. We hope that we all get a cut from the $200 million. I don't mind $500, $1,000, $2,000. Thanks a lot for stopping by. We'll see you again soon.